Scott Luton with Supply Chain Now with an incredible influencer roundtable here today, all powered by our friends at SAP. What we're going to be doing now that day 2 of NRF 2021, aka the Big Show, is complete, we're going to be conducting a recap of some of the key takeaways from a jam-packed day of programming. In particular, we're going to be discussing one popular breakout session that focused on PetSmart and its savvy, successful, and strategic approach at engaging and empowering top young talent. So stay tuned as we have a very lively, fun, and informational conversation here today. So I'm really pleased to have this wonderful panel with us. Let's get to know each one as we kick off the conversation. So let's start with Denise Lee Yan. Hey, Denise, how you doing?
Hey, Scott, and hello, everybody. I'm coming to you live from San Francisco, and I am a keynote speaker on brand leadership, also a writer for Harvard Business Review and Forbes, and a brand leadership consultant.
Outstanding. Great to have you here. Beautiful San Francisco. Looking forward to your insights that you share with us here today, Denise. All right, next up is Minda Harts. Hey, Minda, how you doing?
Hey, Scott. Hey, everybody. Happy to be here. Excited to be in conversation. My name is Minda Harts, and I'm the author of the best-selling book, The Memo, What Women of Color Need to Know to Secure a Seat at the Table. I'm also a faculty at NYU Wagner, and I consider myself as an equity advocate, making the workplace work for everybody. Thanks, Scott.
You bet. Great to have you. And yes, for our Twitter exchange, I'm getting the memo. It's on order. I look forward to it, Minda. And then finally, you bet, Tara Nolan. Hey, Tara, how you doing?
Hi there, good. So Tara Nolan here. I am the founder of sustainable lifestyle brand The Conscious Connoisseur, where I create content that really is underpinned by sustainability and drives that conversation in an engaging way. Also brand consultancy, and I also work at Havas Media Group, where I oversee global growth and PR and marketing for the company.
Outstanding. Great to have you here. Looking forward to your POV. So let's dive right in, right? This is going to be a fast-moving conversation. We're going to start on that really neat breakout session that focused Stasia Anderson from PetSmart, Kristen Howell with SAP, and Chloe and Chris, 2 exceptional graduates from the Terry J. Lundgren Center for Retailing, which is part of the University of Arizona. So let's start with you, Denise. What's 1 or 2 key takeaways from that session?
Yeah, well, I have 2 themes, and they are kind of related. One is curiosity, and the other is communication. So one of my favorite quotes from Stasia, she said, "If you're not learning in retail, you're not winning." And so just this idea of being curious and wanting to learn and wanting to grow and wanting to understand, I think is so critical in retail in general, and particularly now in the season when there's been so much change going on. And related to that is the idea of communication. And the other thing that Stasia talked about that really stood out to me was how as PetSmart interacts with the university and their students, they really seek to listen and not just to be one way talking and promoting themselves, but really learning from these students and having that really robust communication. So curiosity and communication were the things that I took away.
I love that, Denise, and I love listening. I love that notion of listening. That can be an outdated approach these days. All right, so let's go to Minda. Minda, what were a couple of your key takeaways from the session?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this session. And what I loved most too, that it was intergenerational. You had, different generations having this conversation and adding, being a culture add to the conversation. But some things that stood out to me were one, creating this employee journey that is streamlined. So regardless if you're getting your products in the store with your face mask on, or you're picking up your products curbside, or they're being delivered to your home, you feel this sense of, even if you got it from another platform, right, that you're still feeling that employee journey was just as intentional, even if you never left the house. And so I love this concept of really focusing on the employee journey, even if you never leave your house, right? And so, and being I have a dog named Boston, and I go to PetSmart all the time. So I've actually had to go in the store. I've done some curbside pickup, Scott. I've done it all. And so I always feel like I'm getting a really great experience. And then the other thing that I thought was really neat was this idea of access to leadership. We got to hear from 2 really amazing students, and having that access to leadership through their internship programs early on, thought about, man, I wish I could go back to college and have access to certain leaders, right? And so I like the intentionality behind exposing them. And not only that, to piggyback on what Denise said, was listening. You know, they talked about the programs that they, and the projects that they get to put out there, that the senior leaders actually listen, right? Because those associates are closest to the customers. And so I just thought that was really awesome.
Love that. Certainly love piggybacking on that listening theme. I love the pet angle. We have two dogs here, Rudy and Ruby. She's gonna kill me. Ruby, the rescue, and Dexter, and we're big pet people. And I love how they put. It's all about the pet parents experience. I love that, Minda.
Yeah.
All right. So Tara, how about you? What was a key takeaway or two for you?
Well, everyone said some really great things. So I will say also, just what a great time to be PetSmart right now. I mean, the amount of time everyone's at home is, I'm not a pet owner, but I imagine far more significant than the past. So it's a really interesting opportunity and challenge that they have, and they seem to be doing beautifully to be able to really connect with their consumer in the home. So much more connectivity going on, so many more opportunities across different platforms to create that brand experience that typically is found in store that right now is not really an option. So I thought that was and is just a brilliant example of a brand that's in a great spot right now, given the current dynamics of the world. And when it comes to the students on the panel that seem to have a very high potential career in retail for sure, and maybe with PetSmart, I think it's really interesting that they spoke about the aspects of the retail environment that makes them excited. One being creative, one being fast-paced, one being customer-focused, and that makes the retail vertical a really great career path for them. And the second thing too, echoing what everyone's already said, that youth brings new ideas, and there's not really this fear of being told no. And there's a lot of opportunity to take more risks with that, which I think is great. And I think that's kind of the sort of entrepreneurial mentality that really generates new things that we all need, especially in this space.
Well put, Tara. That outside ideas, bringing them inside and bringing them in a very actionable way, leading to multi-million-dollar opportunities, as Stasha pointed out. So Denise, Minda, and Tara, I'm gonna have to look deep in my 17 pages of notes to find something new to share. I appreciate all of you sharing. What I picked up on is Kristen with SAP mentioned that, hey, you can't just show up on campus and interview students. You've got to build the relationships. You got to nurture. You got to invest. Minda, as you put it, you got to provide access to leadership and opportunity and experiences. That was a great point. Chris, the student, the graduate from the Terry J. Lundgren Center for Retailing, said that one of the reasons he chose retail is because he wanted to jump out of bed each morning and make a difference in people's lives. And I love that. And then finally, Chloe mentioned how she's been prepared through her experiences, picking up a lot of critical skill sets, including, to steal a couple that she mentioned, adaptability, which I had that in spades entering 2020, right? And listening, as each of y'all have touched on. One final note that Chloe mentioned, she mentioned the word supply chain and how that appeals to her, and I love that. So we're big partial to supply chain here. All right, so let's shift gears a bit here. And I want to start with you, Tara. Whether it is other NRF programming, there was so much of it, or we've all have spoken to all the change and the challenging business and global business environment right now. What's a couple of observations that you might have, Tara?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of said it already. I think the opportunity that brands have right now, not being able to create that retail experience, which traditionally much different from, the past 5 to 10 years. You've seen Restoration Hardware creating dining spaces, right, to get customers in and really immerse in the brand. So that's just morphed more into what we hold in our hands now. So I think brands really need to just keep thinking more about the ways they can innovate across platform, delivering more seamless opportunities for purchase. And so that can be driven by so many things as well, from you look at media, paid media spend, from traditional bulk creative, and how do you dice that up, and how are you looking at data, how are you leveraging that to make quicker decisions and really pull people into your digital ecosystem and brand. I think that's super important right now.
Love it. Digital ecosystem. I'm going to steal that from you blatantly. I'm going to owe you some commissions on that. All right. So Minda, let's talk about whether it's other NRF 2021 programming or other global business environment observations? What's on your mind?
Yeah, actually, there's been so much great programming that it is hard to pull just one. But listening to all of the conversations, Scott, I thought back to my retail career, the short one that I had in high school when I worked at a record store in the mall. But one of the speakers said that 1 in 4 people in America work in retail. And I did not know that, right? And so that was a really fun fact for me. And then also, too, just being reminded and also knowing, being, working from home, sheltering in place, that I've relied heavily on my retailers, right? Because we need new shirts to wear on these calls. We need different things. And so knowing that retail has really been a driving force during this time period. And I'm really happy to see that and learn so much more about it here at NRF.
Love that, Mindy. You're absolutely right. So many incredible people have contributed to protecting our psyche during these challenging times and making sure we have what we need. And all those brave folks in the retail environment are amongst the healthcare, supply chain, you name it, have kept us all moving forward. So great point. And by the way, Minda, my first job was stocking shelves and bagging groceries for $4.35 an hour at a local grocery store. And that was a great starting point. It taught me so much about customers and the experience, and you name it. So thanks for sharing. Tower Records, maybe. Minda, it sounds like one of your first roles there.
Well, what you remember Camelot? I might be dating myself a bit here.
I do. Oh man, back in the days with single cassette releases and CD releases. Oh man, how the world changed.
The good old days, right?
Awesome, Minda. All right, so Denise, same question to you. Whether it's other NRF 2021 programming or other observations from this very unique business environment we're in, what's on your mind?
Yeah, well, before I answer your question, Scott, I just have to have like a bonding moment with you all about our first jobs or early jobs in retail. And I think it really speaks to what Minda was talking about, that retail is so pervasive that pretty much everyone that you run into has worked in retail at some time or another. And one of my very first jobs was at a very high-end women's apparel retailer. And I was a bag girl or a wrap girl. I basically stood behind the desk and the salespeople would bring the purchases that their customers had made to me. I would ring up it on the register. I would package the purchase in a very nice wrapping and bag and present it to the customer. And, that really taught me a lot about being customer oriented and about the entire experience and how getting this really lovely package from this retailer was part of the whole experience that a woman would have. And so I just kind of wanted to just jump in there and say that I had my retail moment also.
I love it.
Yeah. To answer your question, I actually have to go back and say that the topic of the session, talent, was so, I was just so pleased to see SAP produce that session, because talent is what drives retail. And maybe that does kind of tie into what I was just talking about. It's really the people. Retail is really people serving other people. And I think we're at a really exciting moment in retail where there is so much technology and so much development with data and analytics that it's very exciting, and there's so much possibility and new capabilities. But I think it still comes down to people and and focusing on talent, and how do you bring in talent into corporate roles as well as into frontline roles, I think is it's such a challenge for companies these days. So I was very impressed to hear about PetSmart's relationship with the Terry Lundgren Center and just the extraordinary opportunities that both the company as well as the students had through this partnership. And I think that if we can see more companies develop these kinds of relationships with students, with young people, with people coming into the industry, I think that's really the lifeblood of retail. And then the last thing I will say is that I write and speak a lot about employee experience. and the need to be as deliberate and as intentional in designing employee experience as you are in your customer experience. And again, I kind of point to this like internship program that PetSmart has as a really like a great example of a great employee experience. You know, even before these people become official employees of the organization, they're getting a taste for what it's like to contribute and be a part of it, of a really rockin' retail team. And so I'm just really happy with this topic and the opportunity to learn about a leading retailer that's on the edge of doing something really exciting here.
Exactly.
I could just add on to that, Scott,
Please.
before your next question. So my background is advertising and media, and I used to manage a partnership with the university that had an excellent school of journalism. And so for us on the media side, understanding the millennial demographic, we had this partnership, and we would assign them about 6 to 8 questions every year and say, tell us what you think. And they'd come back to us, they'd present it. It would be our proprietary information that we can share with clients and also distinguish our agency brand and saying, this is something unique that we do. And we ended up hiring these students year over year. I think the partnership now has been going on for 10 years. And so it's just a great thing. And students that go to that school know, hey, I better do well because I can get nominated to join this group. And then maybe I'm going to get a job right out of college. So yeah, awesome efforts all around.
Agreed. You know, what each of you are speaking to clearly is a best practice. Your organization can't have a transactional relationship with these vital talent pipelines, and they have to invest in them. They've got to provide, again, providing access to leadership, Minda, as you pointed out in the comments, and again here, is so incredibly important. And to what each of y'all have kind of spoken to a bit, how neat is it for PetSmart and all the PetSmart team to have incredible ambassadors like Chris and Chloe? You know, that's what you want as an employer, and it helps you along, you know, creating those really world-class employee experiences, Denise, that you're speaking to, you're a big proponent of, and it helps you become that employer of choice. So it was a quick, succinct conversation, but there was so much takeaway from it. So let me share a couple of points with each of y'all, Minda, Denise, and Tara. I caught the conversation with Janie Whiteside, who's Chief Customer Officer with Walmart. And 2 quick points. Again, I had 17 pages of notes, but 2 quick points. She mentioned something we can all probably relate to. She spoke about how recently we've witnessed 5 years of digital transformation in 5 weeks. And that feels really very real to me. I saw a quote in the Wall Street Journal here not too long ago that, you know, what was on the radar, you know, around the corner from a technology application standpoint for 2025, well, it's being implemented now because of the need. And then the second thing that I really, again, I'm partial to supply chain, but Janie Whiteside, again, Walmart said that because of their investment, their decades-long investment in supply chain is what allowed Walmart to, quote, provide surety of supply, end quote. And that was something for some, you know, different products, in some cases services, we were looking for here in 2020, in some cases continue to do so. All right, so much more to engage with each of y'all on. I really appreciate what you've shared. So tip of the hat to our mutual friend, Dan Gingas. Last time we were together, Denise, he asked us one word. You know, what's one word, all the conversations that reflects the tone of what we heard. I want to give each of y'all a little bit more wiggle room. So let's start with you, Minda. If you think of 1 to 5 word theme that reflected the tone of today's conversation or anything else you've seen here at NRF, what would that be?
Oh, I really love this, and I'm glad that you put me on the spot and the hot seat first, Scott. But I'll say it might be 6 words, but maybe 5. Making work for everyone. I think the conversation that we had today was talking about the experience both on the customer and the employee side, and really excited to continue to see the innovation that PetSmart and SAP and some of the other retailers have here in the coming years.
Well, if that's putting you on the spot, Minda, you hit that out of the park. So I remember going last on this one last time, Denise, if you remember, and I was looking for the right phrase to share. So excellent, Minda. Denise, let's stay with you. So what's that 1 to 5 word theme?
Yeah, well, I actually got it easy because I'm going to use the same theme that I used last time, which is leadership. And I had brought it up last time because I just felt like there was kind of a dearth of leadership. Everyone was kind of very much in reactionary mode and not really being visionary or proactive or optimistic. But really in today's session, they talked a lot about leadership. I loved how Chloe described her experience of being able to work on project teams as part of the university curriculum and be able to exercise leadership skills, and how Stasia talked about providing opportunities for students to practice being leaders. And I just think it's so important. Leadership is something that we kind of take for granted, like, people just kind of advance in their careers and all of a sudden they become leaders. But you really do need to develop skills. You really do need to have training. You need to give young people experiences. And we do need leadership now more than ever on so many levels. So I would say that continues to be kind of the number one priority for me, is how to lead and how to help others lead.
Love that. And I've got that reminds me of a great quote that Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, shared today. And he said, quote, "We have no divine right to success." And he was really speaking to that we cannot ignore the wide variety of challenges that we are facing right now. We've got to do something about it. And Denise, as you pointed out, it starts and stops with leadership. So I appreciate you sharing. All right. So Tara, what's that 1 to 5 word theme?
So building off the leadership, I think momentum is really key right now, because you have to keep moving. You have to keep testing. You have to keep trying and seeing what works right now. Everything is in flux tremendously. And so if you're not able to be nimble and willing to take some risks and try different things to connect with your consumer, then that's not a good place to be in. So I'd say momentum, and just don't forget to be human, right? Mm-hmm. This is crazy times. Brands need that sense of empathy in order to connect at a human level. And so I'd say between having that desire to keep moving and be fluid, but know that we're all human and we're all in this thing together, is super important.
Well said, Tara. I appreciate you sharing. All right. So we've got a couple extra minutes here. And before we sign off, I think, Denise, you shared it. A big thanks to SAP for sponsoring the session. Clearly, it resonated. I love any organization that really wants to intentionally give the spotlight to students and those entering the profession. It's very deserving, and we all get better by hearing from those folks that haven't had 20 years of assumptions and kind of that's how we always do it. And we heard from fresh ideas and fresh perspective from Chris and Chloe. So great job to PetSmart and SAP. Let's go around the horn one more time. And Minda, I want to start with you. Each of you, Minda, Denise, and Tara, y'all have got so many really cool projects taking place or already on the shelves. Minda, how can our listeners here connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again. Really excited to participate in this conversation. And, if I could just add one thing, it made me think about what Tara said was the humanizing the workplace. And I think that as each of us continue to, have our sphere of influence and leadership, that don't forget that not everyone is experiencing the pandemic the same, right? So we all might even be living in the pandemic, but working from home is different, maybe for me as it is for Denise, right? As it is for you, Scott. And so I think too, reminding ourselves to be empathetic and hearing people out, I think is really important. And those people closest to the customers have those ideas that maybe will help us with our innovation. And we learned that from the session as well. And so that really just resonated with me, because sometimes, I don't know about all of you, but in my former life, sometimes I'd work with leaders and they would have all the answers, but they never talked to the customers, right? And so it's like, wait a second.
How does that work?
Yes. So, don't forget that everybody is a leader, even without the title. They have the capacity. And so for me, I am most active on LinkedIn and Twitter. So at Minda Harts, please feel free to connect. I do a weekly LinkedIn live show too. And a lot of the work that I do is around women of color. But I believe in order to make the workplace work for everybody, it's important that we have a lens of diversity into everybody's experience in the workplace. So I hope that you all stay connected.
Excellent point. So much some great finishing thoughts there. One thing that comes to mind is the digital divide. That the pandemic has really put a spotlight on that, and we've got to do something about it. I've got 3 kids here at home that were remotely educated, and we were fortunate to have laptops and things like that. And there's plenty of families that didn't, and that really came to the surface the last 12, 14, 15 months. So we add that to the list of challenges we've got to use leadership, Denise, to address. So Denise, staying with you, how can folks connect with you?
Yeah, well, I can be reached through my website, deniseleeyan.com. And I use that name, Denise Lee Yan, on Twitter and LinkedIn, my 2 most active social media platforms. And I do just want to add my thanks to yours, Scott, to SAP for inviting us to be part of this community and for producing these great segments. One of the reasons why I continue to be a part of the SAP community is I know that SAP is going to be producing great content and really contributing important ideas into the conversation. And so I just am grateful for the opportunity to be a part of that.
Excellent point. It's real and authentic. And I completely agree with you, Denise. Thanks. Well said. All right. So Tara, how can folks connect with you?
So you can find me mostly, I'm most active on Instagram. So you can just type in Tara Nolan. I'm also known as the Conscious Connoisseur. It's my alias. Website is also that.co. And also LinkedIn is a great platform for me as well. So I talk a lot about media things there too. So yeah, those are my 2 platforms. And again, thank you all. This was so great. And the discussion was amazing. And I look forward to tomorrow.
Outstanding. I do too. And want to thank each of you, starting Denise Lee Yan, Minda Harts, and Tara Nolan. Great conversation here today. I really appreciate what you brought to the table. And I can't wait. Can we go ahead and knock out the second one right after this one? Y'all game? But to our audience that may be tuned in, as Tara mentioned, we are going to be back Thursday, January 14th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time, depending on when you're catching this. Should be tomorrow. But we're going to be covering day 3, a jam-packed day 3 at NRF 2021. I'll tell you, a ton of things to cover and talk about. In particular, tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern time, there's going to be a breakout session all about creating a new retail environment focused on optimal customer experience. And as you heard here from Tara and Denise and Minda and Astasia with PetSmart said that with retail, it starts and stops with the customer experience, right? And we heard Chloe and Chris speak about listening and how important it is, listening to those customers, those pet parent customers. So stay tuned. Join us tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time as we dive into that session and all other sessions at the big show on day 3, all powered by our friends here at SAP. On that note, on behalf of our entire panel here, Minda and Denise and Tara, Scott Luton wishing all of you nothing but the best. Hey, do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And on that note, we hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.